Ahoy Rovers! Well, Hurricane Ida has just ripped through the Maritimes, or I should say what was left of Hurricane Ida. And with Hurricane Ida came just a lot of rain. More rain than Summerside, the area I live in, has ever seen, ever on record, since records have been held. Anyway, it was a great day to go to the lumber yard because there was no one there. There were no lineups. I picked up this pile of lumber right here that you see behind me, and that is for the strongback of the Wave Rover 650. And what is a strongback? Well, as many of you know, I teach carpentry to the apprenticeship program here at PEI, and the apprentices, I always tell them the most important money you're ever going to spend on a building is in the foundation. And a strongback is nothing more than the foundation of a boat build. And for the 650, well, it's not a big foundation, but it's very important. Once you build it, you don't want it to move. Anyway, enough talking about it, time to crack on. Now take a little bit of time to ensure that the lumber you select is straight and without too many defects. As long as you restack the pile after you're finished, the lumberyard workers aren't going to hassle you. And bear in mind, they won't be perfect. It's pretty good. I know it's got a wane on that bottom.
50 kilometers per hour. Do expect about 10 to 20 millimeters of rain today with an additional 20 to 30 millimeters for tonight.
Now take a little bit of time and stack your lumber neatly. You want to make sure that it's level and there's a certain amount of air movement underneath it. You took a lot of time to select it and transport it. Now look after it so that it's still nice and straight when you go to use it. Now it's time to start building that strongback, and I've got the construction plans on the computer and I'm working from that. Now in a previous video, I mentioned how I want to use just simple hand tools and simple techniques in order to build this boat. And that's because this empowers the backyard builder into being able to do this without an expensive outlay for tools or courses on how to use them. Now I need a number of spreaders that are identical in length. Now here's a simple technique in order to accomplish that. So when you're cutting a piece of wood and you want to keep it fairly accurate, cut yourself one piece really accurately. Mark it as a template and then lay it on top of the 2x6 that you're going to cut. Hold it nice and square to the end. Make your pencil. Make a line and make an X on the waist side. Put your hearing protection on. Line up your square and then go for it. Now, Mrs. Rover is here today to give me a hand, and after 23 years of marriage, she is an excellent builder and helper. Now, in order to get the 24-foot length that I need for the strongback, I'm taking two 12-foot pieces and making them one by putting a scab across the joint. Now, having both stringers side by each, you can now mark out the spacing for what will be the stations of the temporary frames. Now, let's quickly put the whole thing together. Now, don't make any assumptions that what you built is square, because wood has a way of twisting and bending. The only way you can really ensure that it's square is by ensuring that one side is straight and then pulling diagonal measurements and making sure those diagonal measurements are equal. We're within a 16th, that'll be it. So now, Brian, come on down and just help me secure this while we put the one by across. Clean up this side of that. Okay. Now it's time to lock the squareness in place by putting a couple of diagonal braces across it, and that'll prevent it from moving should it be kicked or adjusted in some other way. Now the next step is to build the vertical supports from which the temporary frames will be suspended. Good. Now, with Mrs. Rover's help, let's install these uprights on the strongback. Okay, so I'm going to find the center line of our strong back. And this is an important reference point that we'll be using throughout the whole build. Now, I'm just putting a little spacer here, and I'm putting the center line on that as well. So this spacer, you'll see what it's used for in a minute, but basically it'll be used to take a brace from here to here to stop any lateral movement this way on the strong back. Okay. Oh, I've got it. Okay, that's good. And finally, a little more bracing for the athwart shift direction. And although it may not be obvious, Mrs. Rover is wearing hearing protection in the form of earplugs. Okay, Rovers, so what we're doing right now is we're firming up the strong back. So you saw me this morning put some braces on the side, and that's to keep these uprights from moving fore and aft. Now we've got to set up some braces to keep them moving athwartships, keep them from moving athwartships. So in order to do that, we found that the framing square just wasn't good because the 2x4s have a radius on them. So we're just using a piece of OSB, and it has 2 factory edges on it here. So that gives us 90 degrees. And by just holding it up to the edge, well, this one, just purely coincidence, is perfect. So I can just take this brace now, set it in like that, and it'll lock it in place. So once we have all these uprights locked in place from moving in or out or fore and aft, then we have a strong back that's ready to receive the actual frames. And we'll be doing those at a later date, next episode. All right, anyway, I've got to finish all this bracing with Mrs. Rover's help. Time to crack on. Well, hello, Rovers. That is the end of week 1. Now, it only took about a day and a half to get the strong back to the position that you see it in right now. And it's not finished. I still have frame 5 and 6 to do, and I'm waiting for Andy to give me just the last few details on that. We've made a few changes, so that should be coming in, and I'll get that done early in the next video. In addition, in the next video, I will be building the actual, well, temporary frames that will be hanging off of the strong back. Once we get that done, then we'll have something that looks a little more like a boat. That's bound to take me a week or 2 to get all those lofted out. And in this video you saw earlier on Mrs. Rover helping out quite a bit, but you saw her painting 2 sheets of oriented strand board. And the reason she was doing that was because that will be my lofting table where I'll draw out the actual frames. I'd also like to thank everybody who participated in the Wave Rover 650 study plan fundraiser. We actually sold 100 sets of plans in just a little over 2 days. Phenomenal support. Thank you very much. And that money is going to offset the cost of the materials such as the epoxy, the fiberglass, the marine ply, you name it. There's a heap of material that I've ordered up this week. In fact, I spent about a day and a half on the phone and making calculations to figure out what it is I need and where to get it and how to get it shipped here, because everything has to be shipped here. And I'm glad I did it because everybody seems to be running out of material at this point. Now, concerning the study plans, of course, that was only the 100 study plans that I had in my shop. If you want to get study plans, they're still available, of course, but they're through Andy Dizes, the naval architect. You can get them through his shop, and I'll put a link in the video description, and that'll take you directly to his shop, and you'll be able to get those study plans. I'd also like to thank the following two people, Jean-Francois Ciscos and Doug Johnson, who both have made a donation of $100 US or more, and whose names are both going on the Benefactors bulkhead, and the Benefactors bulkhead is on Wave Rover and will be going with Wave Rover on her circumnavigation. Thank you very, very much. Also, I'd like to thank our new patrons, Tobias Hallworth, Clyde Reveille, Ryan Gogans, and Doug Johnson. These pledges go a long way to covering off a lot of the costs that go into creating these particular videos and a whole lot more. So thank you very, very much. So as always, Rovers, thanks for watching.